Hi everyone, my name is Ibn and welcome to a special Planet Zoo anniversary edition of How Do You Do? If you were in the Planet Zoo live stream, you probably saw me and you probably saw the build that you see right in front of you here. We were tasked to make something that was a celebration of Planet Zoo, and of course for me, Planet Zoo is a game where I can be as creative as possible and I can use all the different pieces to make the things that I've always wanted to make. And of course, I had to make a backstage so I could show off what you can do with this amazing game. If you haven't seen the live stream, this build is a kitchen, a zookeeper's kitchen, where a zookeeper is making a 3rd anniversary birthday cake, and it's packed full with little Easter eggs and references. I've got Wyatt Workshop sign-up sheet, I've got the rules from Planet Zoo, I've got Tharmachati, we've got Just Goron. We've got a bunch of references to the CMs as well. One of the CMs used to stream or is still making cooking videos, Lydia. So I made this for Lydia, who is streaming the making of the birthday cake. We have Fran's rabbit. We've got Jens's Alan Grant costume. We've got a boba tea maker for Altanen. We've got a little frog for Tim. We've got Altanen's squirrel, of course. And there's also references to other people, as I mentioned. You've got Just Goron, you've got Wyatt, you've got N7 or Mike Sheets. And yeah, for me, this entire build was about celebrating what you can do with the game and what you can make with all the pieces that you have. And of course, I wanted to show you all how you can make all the things that I've made in this stream. So I'll be showing a few of the highlight pieces and I will breaking it apart just like in any other How Do You Do video. And as an extra bonus, I've also added some of the backstage pieces that were in the St. Reginald Zoo episode, so you can also see how these were made. Let's get started with the first one. One of the first things that I started making was these little mobile carts. I saw them in one of the reference pictures that I based this kitchen on, and I really wanted to have this because one of the things that I like to do a lot is making little wheels, because it's of course super practical to have these little carts that you can move around. So how I did these wheels is actually quite simple. We've got the conservation pack wheelbarrow handle. It's not the wheelbarrow, it's the wheel cart, or whatever. I'm bad with names. It's this little handle, and when I saw this, I immediately recognized the shape of a little wheel. So all I had to do was make a tire, which is super simple using this conservation pack gutter piece, and then with the lead cap of the Euro pack, I filled in the holes, and I was able to make these little wheels. By using this little metal piece, I could make the drawers, and all I had to do was make a handle, and I could do that with the other lead cap. The lead cap is one of my favorite pieces because it's so super versatile, and you'll probably see that piece return in a lot of these builds. Let's go on to the next one. One of the things that I made for this stream is this scale. That's also because I saw in one of my references a picture of a zookeeper with a really old ancient scale. So I decided to include that, and to make this I only used a very few pieces. I used this little bracket piece for the general construction of the scale. I of course used this vent piece as the base to put items on. One of my favorite pieces is this fan base from the Euro pack. I use that super often. Every time I need a circle, I mostly use this one. The gutter pack also, the gutter set of the conservation pack also came with this. So that's how I made like the rings that you see right here. And as always, I use the hinge piece to make these little dots and these little items. To make the piece where this plate is on, I use this big Twilight pack piece, and for me it's really funny and it's a really cool way of showing, like, even if a piece is really big and huge, you can still use it to make really small things. You can just hide it in other pieces. On to the next one, which is the camera for Lydia. This one was actually also quite simple to make. It doesn't consist of like a ton of different pieces, and that's one of the things that I like doing when it comes to these little builds, is trying to use a limited amount of pieces to get the effect of an actual of an object that isn't in the game. And this camera is obviously not in the game, but it's simply made out of the trusty switch piece that we've all been using a lot. This little LED cap piece here for the lens of the camera, these little pieces over here. There's this piece and this piece. I don't know the names of them, but they are part of the Euro pack again. They're used all throughout the build, like it's used for this little holder, it's used for the camera lens itself, it's used for the dead mouse, I think is what Goron calls it, the way to record your audio. And the stand itself was simply made using a beam, one of the wooden ones, and these little corner pieces to hold the dead mouse or the dead cat. I think that was what Goron called it. I simply used this hanging piece, this hook piece, which I really enjoy. As you can see on the right side here, we'll continue with these little bar stools. They were pretty easy to make as well, because once I figured out that I could use this part of the pulley system, I immediately recognized this type of chair in it. I knew that I just then would need a flat circle, and for that I always use this planter pot piece. It's super useful, it's super thin, it's not too big, so it works well. And when I saw that the handle piece had this thicker part of a cylinder, it all makes sense, but because then I could immediately could recognize the thing where you can make the chair go higher or make it go down. The only thing that I then would have to hide is this little round piece, which I simply did using this piece of the conservation pack and the cool gutter piece, which again makes its return. As you saw, I also made a washing machine, and that's also pretty common in zoos, something that I didn't know either. But once I read up on it, it's of course makes a lot of sense. You've got uniforms, you've got all kinds of things that you need to wash. And again, it doesn't consist of like a bunch of pieces. It's made out of very simple art shapes, a tile piece to get the display, these little light bulbs, which I like using because it's a small, tiny piece and it works really well for buttons. Both the top can be used for a button. This is like one of those switch buttons that you can turn around, or you can use the bottom of it as an actual button. The cool thing for me personally was creating this lid, and I did that using the planter pot and used one of these bracket pieces as a kind of handle for it. So yeah. This was also a build that you could see in my Planet Zoo build, and this is a cardboard box, and I've always been such a fan of this little box because it is such a simple thing. It's simply one of the big bracket square pieces, cube pieces, and a switch, and it's a super simple thing. It's not complicated at all, it's super simple, but when you look at it, you immediately recognize it as, oh yeah, that's a cardboard box that I can place wherever I want to. So another thing that I made, and this one was already made for St. Reginald's Zoo, is this coffee machine. And again, it doesn't consist of too many complicated pieces. You have the fan base from the Euro pack, this other piece from the Euro pack, and these two pieces from the gutter set from the conservation pack, and this little switch piece. I like using this little light bulb piece, and I think it's from the Arctic pack, for anything that is like a jug or like a coffee maker, stuff like that, because it always resembles that. And whenever I see like a glass, it's something that looks like a glass ball, I go back and use this piece. One of the other items that was originally shown in St. Reginald's Zoo backstage was this little mixer, and I used that to make like the in St. Reginald Zoo. It represented the mix they make for penguin chicks. In the build itself for the Planet Zoo anniversary, it's simply to mix strawberries and stuff for the cake. And again, I keep repeating myself here, but it's not made out of a bunch of super complicated pieces. It's this reoccurring piece from the Europack. I think it's used for the LED signs. And I used the gutter piece, again, the little circle piece, for both the mixing cup and the mixer itself. And to make the little pointy bits, I don't know the English name for it, to connect this and this, I simply use one of the hinge pieces. All the other pieces are simply the switch and again that little light bulb piece. Now, as I said, I wanted to give you a bonus set of pieces, and some of these pieces are from the St. Reginald Zoo episode, and this is one of them. This is the scale, and it's one of the classic zoo scales, and when I saw that one in one of the references for the backstage of the penguins, I knew that I had to make it. I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to make it, but when I saw it, I was like, okay, this has to be in the episode, and now we're backstage. So how did I do it? Again, I needed a circle. So one of the things that I did was automatically I went for one of the plant pot circles, and I thought, okay, this works well, so I put two of them together, and it already started to look like the big older scales. I knew that I would need a kind of hook piece, and I needed a cable piece, so I grabbed the cable piece. I grabbed this little knot piece so I could connect the hook with the cable, and I already quite quickly knew that I was going to use this piece, the tab piece from the conservation pack, to have it as the indicator on the scale. All the other stuff is basically done with a simple hook piece, again the light bulb piece, and some fun pieces to make the white part of the scale. I am honestly really happy with this build. This is one of my favorite ones, and especially because it again doesn't use too many difficult pieces. It's a pretty simple build at the end of the day. Next up is, and I also mentioned that in the stream, is the industrial dishwasher. Again, not something I thought zoos would have, but apparently they do. And again, it is not made out of super complex pieces. It's made using simple art shapes for the most part. The only things that for me are special is this rope piece from the Africa set to get this hose, the flexible hose that you have in zoos. Again, the LED sign piece, one of the rod pieces to get like this, this part that moves and that you can easily put like a bucket on, move it into the dishwasher, pull it down, let it wash the dishes, and then continue. One of the pieces that I always like using is this little square sign piece. It is super fun, it's super flexible, it's super useful, and I really suggest to anyone to start using it because it works so well. It is super useful, super flexible, and it's not too big. It's big enough for bigger builds, but it's not overly big. As you can see, it's like the size of 4 of these Australia signs, so it's quite useful. Next up is the nest machine. I completely forgot what the English word for this is, but it's basically used to keep chicks that were just born or were born too early in zoos. And again, the build is not that difficult. One of the things that I had, there was this little switch, so I made that using this gutter piece again. Of course, this opens here, so I had some hinge pieces to actually represent hinges this time. The handle is made using this little wood piece, and for the most part, it consists of this Australia piece to make the sides. To finish it all up, I have a glass piece, and of course, this little piece of sheets as the bottom where a chick or where an egg of a bird would be. And to sum it up, I want to end with this build. The portable boombox is just, it was too good not to make. It was also part of one of my references. And once I saw that if I could combine like 3 full stops with each other, I immediately recognized the shape of these portable boomboxes in it, and I thought, okay, now I know what to do, now I can continue. So the speakers themselves are made again by using 2 of these fan bases. One is facing our way, the other one is showing the bottom of this piece, which essentially creates the box itself. We've got a little tile piece as a display. We use 2 hook pieces as the handle, and again one of those light bulb pieces. The piece itself is big enough so you can actually fit in one of those little audio items in it, so you can actually make it play music in game, which I really enjoy. Yeah, so that was the entire set of all the things that I've done for this build. This build is on the workshop. If you want to download it, you can use it. You could pick it apart. You can use everything that's in there. No need to credit me. It's all fine. You can all use it as much as you want. The other pieces of the St. Reginald Zoo backstage will probably come in another workshop blueprint. I just want to get a little bit more pieces before I do that. And before I end the video, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Planet Zoo. The past 3 years have been absolutely amazing, and being part of the live stream was one of the coolest things ever. I want to thank everyone who is there in the chat. I was able to read some of the messages afterwards. They were truly heartwarming. Thank you so much. And I want to do a big shout out to all the people at Frontier. It's easy to forget that people behind the screen are actual human beings. But I can tell you that everyone that is working on Planet Zoo is all super enthusiastic about the game. They are really passionate people, and they are really some of the warmest and kindest people that I've ever had the pleasure to meet. So I want to just do a big thank you to Frontier. I still don't know how it happened. I still don't know why I was picked, but I'm so grateful for them. And yeah, I hope to see so much more of this game in the future, because it absolutely is one of my favorite games. Thank you so much for watching. In the next episode on my channel will be another episode of St. Reginald Zoo, and afterwards I have a really cool zoo we're gonna tour that wasn't made by me, but that you will see in a few weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!